Hello and welcome to today's program. My name is Glenn Plummer. Healthcare is one of this country's most significant issues. And with this being an election year in our state, much attention is being focused on healthcare. But something that most people don't know about is help care, which is often confused with health care, in particular home help care. And that is what this program is all about. Health care in the home, as provided by the federal government under the Medicaid program, and the dilemma many Medicaid recipients face as to who can and cannot provide the help Medicaid recipients need in order to realize a reasonable standard and quality of life. So join us for a stimulating dialogue today as we discuss the home health care dilemma. Over the past number of years, in-home help care. Now remember, we're talking about help care, H-E-L-P. In-home help care has helped Medicaid recipients to realize a decent quality of life while simultaneously helping literally thousands of people get off the state of Michigan unemployment rolls and back to work. Now, by way of background, the Michigan Home Health Care Act was placed on the 2012 statewide ballot as a constitutional amendment, where it was soundly defeated. The bill proposed, among other things, that the Michigan Quality Home Care Council would provide a training for in-home care workers and create a registry of workers who passed background checks. The proposal was soundly defeated by a margin of 56% against and 44% in favor. Now, why is all this important to you? It's important because the state of Michigan apparently did not get the message that the will of the people spoke in 2012. The Medical Services Administration of the Michigan Department of Community Health has mounted a new effort, new efforts to impose upon the people of the state of Michigan portions of that bill which was soundly defeated in 2012. We're going to talk today to people who are concerned about this dilemma. There's information at the bottom of the screen on how you can join today's conversation. Well, we're back, and I want to thank you for joining us for this really important discussion about the state of Michigan and home health care. Joining me in this discussion is a distinguished gentleman. His name is Sport Dunn. And first of all, thank you for coming and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Palmer.
Let me understand, why you are even interested. What do you do? What's your connection to this issue?
My connection with this issue is we run an agency, United Home Health Care.
Now, when we say, like when you just said United Home Health Care, so most people's ears hear United Home Health Care, but we're saying United Home Help Care. What's the difference between health care and help care?
A provider comes into the home and does chore services such as bathing, dressing, chores around the home, running errands, shopping, those type of things.
And the people who, so this is something that, family members kind of do for their loved ones on a normal, regular basis.
That is correct.
So why would the federal government want to get involved with this? Because they funded this.
Correct. In the beginning, with elderly being able to stay in their home for as long as possible without having to go into a nursing home.
I see. And so the federal government provided resources, funding throughout the country to help these elderly people. This was the original idea, to help these elderly people to have a quality of life in their own home.
That is correct. And from there it got expanded because this program starts with those 60 and over. And it got extended to those who are 18 to 59 who are also disabled.
Okay, so the people who actually qualify for this help care are the people that you just described, but who actually are the people who provide this help?
Like you said earlier, is their loved ones, the people that they feel most comfortable with handling their home, their personal situation. So it is your family members, such as son, grandson, daughter, mother sometimes, fathers, taking care of their children who would not be able to ever live on their own. The choice waiver program. And with that choice is what allows mama to pick who she wants taking care of her.
As opposed to the government saying this nurse or this person has to come in and take care.
Exactly.
All right. So mama picks, cousin Pookie to come in, or daddy picks, his who? Anybody?
Anyone, whoever they feel deemed enough to come in that they are most comfortable with to take care of them.
Don't these people have to have some qualifications?
That's just it. All of these services that are being provided are non-licensed services.
So these people who are providing it, they don't have to meet any restriction, or they don't have to meet any standard, or they don't have to apply to the state to be approved?
No, they only need the standard of what mama, daddy, grandmama, anyone elderly, or who's ever disabled feel that you're capable of taking care of me.
All right, and so then apparently some agencies came into existence.
Yes.
Which you work for one of those agencies.
Correct.
So what's the role of the agency?
Well, the role of an agency is providing more services than what they'll get from the state. The state is not going to clear cut tell them everything of what they can and can't do. They're not going to provide them with the services when they have problems and issues.
I mean, give me an example.
Example would be you're dissatisfied with your caseworker and the services and the hours that the state of Michigan have approved you for. Where with an agency, we personally go in, represent them before a judge, and making certain properly that everything in the state should be doing for them gets done.
So, for example, the example used of mama, and she has, one of her grandchildren or somebody taking care of them, and but she needs more time, she needs more service, more help than the state has approved. The state approves a certain number of hours or a certain dollar amount?
Based on their needs. Because what one need, another may not. Meaning, for an example, you have someone who she has bad arthritis, a bad back, versus someone who is wheelchair bound. Both need help and aid around the home, but the aid and help they need may be different from one person to the next. So the amount of hours that they're approved for may be different from one person to the next person based on their personal needs.
So then as the agency, you're the advocate for the recipient of the help with the state of Michigan.
Correct.
All right, and then there was this ballot that was put before the Michiganders that said what? What was the purpose of that particular proposal?
Well, the purpose of that proposal
This
was
in 2012.
Right, in 2012, the election took place on November the 6th. That proposal based on the qualifications of them nurses, different physical therapist position going in, and one of the issues was screening process. The vote of the people voted it down. The state is doing something different on their own.
If we had to reduce this down to a simple understanding, the issue, and it's a dilemma, there's a battle going on. What is the fight? What is the issue?
Where's the money going? These are services where individuals don't need any training or education except for the love that they have in their heart and taking care of someone they take care of, whether they provide for this program or not, regardless of their background. Because now they want to say those who are unemployed, even though they serve their time, their debt to society, have this small blemish in their past, but mom and daddy loves them. Best friend, the neighbor, who I trust this person to come in my home, the state of Michigan would say no, because you don't even qualify to take care of a loved one.
So if someone has any kind of criminal background, not even a prosecution, I guess, is it they've had a felony?
Felony, it could be expunged. They're saying you don't qualify.
Even if it's been expunged?
Even if it's been expunged.
And you are no longer qualified to provide the help care for your loved one with the Medicaid or the state of Michigan funding and paying for that.
That is correct.
That's the issue.
That's the issue.
So if this is something that concerns you, something that you would like to be involved with, there is a website address on the bottom of the screen. Go to that website, because what is being asked is for 5,000 petitions, 5,000 people to say this is outrageous, or this should not happen, or this is unfair, or however you want to describe it. Go to the website right now and make your voice, make your concern count. Do it right now.
Yes, you're hired. You can start tomorrow. Hi, are you unemployed? Then you'll want to pay attention, because we're hiring people just like you. Right now, we're hiring for good paying jobs in one of the fastest growing industries. Call now to learn how you can earn a great salary in a rewarding field. There's no training, no background checks, and no experience necessary. Grab your phone, call now. Let's get started.
This is for our mothers, our daughters, our sisters, aunts, nieces, and best friends. This is for every single woman who ever had to hear the words, "You have breast cancer." The women who have endured chemotherapy, radiation, tamoxifen, drugs, and more drugs. Listen to me closely. Keep fighting. You are more than a conqueror, and you will not be defeated.
My guest now is no stranger to many people, not only here in the metropolitan Detroit area in Michigan, but around the country. His name is Pastor David Bullock. He pastors a great church, the Greater St. Matthew Baptist Church. He is politically engaged and has been for many, many years. Just recently selected to be one of the preachers of Detroit on the nationally acclaimed program on Oxygen. And it is just a pleasure to talk to you again.
Dr. Plummer, good to be here.
Great to talk to you. So this whole idea of the health care industry, which is different than, not different, but it's a part of the health care, dealing with home care workers. You are usually engaged on several levels with different issues all across the state, across the city. How are you engaged with this issue?
Well, you know, the healthcare industry is a growing industry, and with the unemployment rate being so high in places like Detroit, Flint, Benton Harbor, Pontiac, you know, we struggle as a community in southeastern Michigan to find solutions for employment. Interestingly enough, African Americans have always had a tradition of in-home health care by way of relatives. You know, I remember when my mother died, my auntie moved from Florida, moved into the house, and helped out. You know, so it's not the same thing.
Question. Did she receive funds from the federal government or from the state?
No, she ate the food that my father bought.
Of course.
I mean, she was not paid. It was a room and board, and from cleaning to all kinds of things, and even caring for my mother before she passed. So there's a tradition there. And so the healthcare industry then ties that in-home care to dollars, you know, oftentimes government dollars.
Right.
And so I think this is a great concept for employment, for empowering people who need help inside the home, and obviously can be a good opportunity for folks who need jobs and folks who need care, and folks who want to provide that care. But there are always these questions, these political questions.
One of the controversies is that these are not skilled workers. These home care workers don't have to be skilled. They don't have to have a license. Don't have to be certified. They basically operate by love and care, and yet they are employed. And so this current controversy that's spinning now would threaten the employment of a lot of these people.
Well, let me say, I think part of what government does is charge a fee for regulation. And under certain conditions, that makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, you want somebody to check the food, FDA. But you've got to pay for that job. The checker has to be paid. So you charge a fee so that can happen. But of course, when it comes to telecommunications or utility service, deregulation is the order of the day.
That's true.
So right now, we're trying to figure out what the role of government is, regulation or deregulation, some hybrid form, and then how does government operate in a way that doesn't, that's not anti-business or doesn't mess up the job market and the labor market. I think that policies and proposals that would limit employment opportunities should be scrutinized very, very carefully, and especially in Michigan, right, where there, Detroit, 50% unemployment. And so before you're going to take somebody's job, before you're going to create a registry and build a criteria that's going to self-select a certain population, there needs to be scrutiny. We need to make sure it's fair. We need to make sure it's just. And if it's not, we shouldn't do it.
So these health care agencies that have now kind of grown up and are taking care of not only a lot of people throughout the state, but they've employed a lot of people. Now there's a threat. And one of the threats is coming from one of the unions that you're familiar with. How do you speak to that?
Yes, I've worked with SEIU in the past and presently, mostly around the Good Jobs Now campaign.
One of the things with this particular dilemma and issue is that the current pay scale that the home health care workers are receiving will also be reduced. Or I don't know if you're aware of that.
I wasn't aware of that, but I think that's a significant point to be made. I support collective bargaining, but I don't think collective bargaining should ever be used to adversely affect workers.
Yeah.
I mean, the idea is having a union to benefit workers. It seems to me that the healthcare worker needs to make a decent wage. There should be very limited barriers to that, and outside of making sure that they are not going to hurt anybody, right, and that they have the basic skill set to do the job. Let them do the job, let them get paid, and let's put people back to work.
One of the things that they are also proposing is background checks and background screenings. What's your thought about just the whole idea of background screening?
I think background screening makes sense. We live in a world now where people check backgrounds for everything. If you want to be a pastor, they check your background. You want to work at the casino, they check your background. Want to work at a school, check your background. Even volunteering now, when volunteers come, check your background. But checking a background, right, is one thing. But now, what do you do with the information? And is that information going to be used to deny someone employment, and then on the basis of what? For instance, suppose I've been to jail and I've come out, I got a felony on my record, but I served my time.
Yeah.
And you check my background and that comes up. Well, that's fine. I can explain it. I did my time. I'm out now.
It's not fine with
right?
this.
Well, see, now that's a problem.
Because with this, as I understand it, they're no longer qualified.
Now that's a problem. One, it's a problem for a couple of reasons. One, if I have a felony and I can't get employment, you know where I'm going.
Right.
I'm going back to jail, right?
Yeah.
So that's a problem. Two, I served my time. Three, the charge may not even be related to in-home health care.
Beyond that, if it's been expunged, if your record has been expunged, that works against you in home health care with this new proposal.
Pastor Plummer, I think that's ludicrous. We had a president of the United States that had cocaine possession on his record. The second George Bush. It was expunged. He became president. So expungement is supposed to give people a second chance, a clean slate. I don't understand what it means to say somebody's record has been expunged, but because that charge was on their record, even though it has been expunged, somehow they're disqualified from health care employment or employment of any kind. And I think that reasonable people would agree that that's an unreasonable criteria.
Are you suffering from a personal injury? Do you have a pending lawsuit? Do you need money now? Are you tired of calling your attorney and asking about your settlement date? If your answer is yes to any of these questions, you need to call Cousins Legal Funding for a pre-settlement cash advance at 888-292 0003. You can have cash in your hands within 72 hours. Don't settle for less. Get the cash you need now.
Yes, you're hired. You can start tomorrow. Hi, are you unemployed? Then you'll want to pay attention because we're hiring people just like you. Right now, we're hiring for good paying jobs in one of the fastest growing industries. Call now to learn how you can earn a great salary in a rewarding field. There's no training, no background checks, and no experience necessary. Grab your phone, call now. Let's get started.
I recently interviewed Pierre Wilson. There are a number of home health care agencies, and he's the president of one of those agencies. Pierre, as president of United Home Healthcare, describe for people who really don't understand your whole industry. What does your company do?
We provide domestic chores for Medicaid recipients and advocacy help with their case files. We send out caregivers. Patients seem to be very happy with us and the advocacy care that we provide, and we also fulfill a need in the community for providing jobs for those that are unemployed or need supplement income.
How will the amendment affect your business as a home care agency?
It limits the employment opportunities that we can extend to the community, particularly those loved ones that are disabled or elderly that prefer a friend or a family member in and out of their home. It directly affects them. The state is giving us until March of next year to fully comply with their request to background check all of our independent contractors and caregivers by March 31st, 2015.
And within the African American community, the percentage of people who have some form of criminal, I don't want to say prosecution even, just some negative
criminal record.
Right, on their record. There's some criminal activity, or there's something negative on their record. I mean, this is huge.
I personally believe that the objective is to refunnel those jobs out of the underserved urban communities at the expense of the patients and the disabled having the loved one that they feel comfortable with inside of their home caring for them.
Generally speaking, the jobs you provide are not 40-hour full-time jobs, right?
Correct.
They're part-time.
Yeah, correct.
But they help people supplement their income.
Yeah, they can range from 20 hours a month to 120 hours a month.
So what do you want people to do?
I'd like them to speak up, if you're going to be affected by this, or you just have a concern and you care about the process and the direction that the state is taking with this matter. Speak out about it. Go to our website and put in your electronic petition and support our cause.
I'm reminded of a passage of scripture in the Bible where the prophet Isaiah said, "I will not keep silent for Jerusalem's sake." I'm asking you, don't keep silent. Welcome back to our in-depth look at the home healthcare dilemma. Let's take a look at some people our correspondent Trish Wilson spoke to recently.
Vakina shared her thoughts on how some of the features of this amendment could affect her. How long have you been receiving home care help?
Actually, it started in 2006.
Okay.
I actually got really ill in 2005, ended up leaving my job in an ambulance as a social worker, and tried to stay home on my own, but my daughter came and got me, and I stayed with her. In 2006, getting into subsidized housing, they started allowing her to become my chore care provider.
If any of your children had to go through a background check to continue to take care of you, how would that affect you?
The problem is, if that law was passed, it would be bad for a lot of people. Not saying that my kids are all perfectly living the way I want them to, but in this day and age especially, you can't trust just anybody.
Mm-hmm. How would this experience be different for you if you did have someone in your home who was sent from the state, a stranger, and not your children, not someone that you personally knew?
I would be leery. And it may sound bad, but in actuality, I think the government is trying to take too much control of our lives away from us. My granddaughter is only being paid for 3 hours a week. We need more help than that, as is. She gets $89 a month. What is that?
From the state?
From the state.
For her help with you?
For her help with me. And she does 3 times as more.
Thanks, Trish. This kind of testimony is firsthand knowledge and experience people have had or are having with home help care and the need for caring, loving, personable people who are already providing this level of care to their loved ones. Now, the state of Michigan is denying that opportunity to Medicaid recipients simply because they've paid their debt to society in some instances as long as 10 to 15 years ago. How long must a person's past be held against them? The state of Michigan apparently did not get the message that the will of the people spoke in 2012.
Proposal 4 is more about a special interest. One union taking $6 million away from home health care workers that are quite often taking care of their relatives, when they could use those precious dollars to hopefully provide even better care or livelihood for their family unit.
For the state of Michigan, or for that matter any legislative body, to circumvent the will of the people by enacting pieces of legislation which has already been voted down is actually reprehensible. How many people do you know who have had an encounter with the criminal justice system who cannot find a job? No one wants to admit it, but unemployment is a very discouraging state of affairs, particularly for someone who has, 1 or more strikes on their record or against them. Now that person is being restricted from caring for their loved ones and receiving fair compensation for something they would do or are doing without getting paid. Medicaid recipients deserve better. Caregivers deserve better. Someday, either one of those I've just spoken about could be you or me. Let's send a message to Lansing they won't forget and cannot ignore. Log in to the website at the bottom of the screen right now. That's don'tkeepsilent.org. Again, don'tkeepsilent.org. The need is for 5,000 electronic signatures to send to Lansing saying that excluding ex-offenders from caring for their mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, nieces, nephews, loved ones, friends, or associates is just plain ludicrous. Thank you for watching this edition of Don't Keep Silent. I'm Glenn Plummer.